Dear colleagues, dear friends, I have a pleasure to talk about the crowdsourcing. It's one of the hot topics of management and of PR as well. What's crowdsourcing? It's a term coined from two terms. One is the crowd and sourcing. And of course it is reminding us of outsourcing at the first sight. You see behind me, it's a very center of Belgrade, pedestrian zone, and there are a lot of people passing, and we call them the crowd. So how the crowd can become a source for our business and our production? If we go to the history, we always say the crowd had always its role. If you go to see the text of the antique dramas from ancient Greek, there is a crowd. The crowd is like an antique core. Or if you go to the Roman Empire, the crowd was a participant in the games, gladiator games and so on, having its own role. Now when we speak about crowdsourcing, we are thinking about the potentials of the crowd and the talent of the crowd. A friend of mine who is teaching in Italy used to say that he does not like the expression the crowd. It does not sound politely, but if you don't like it, you can see the power of the many. It means that we are using the power of the many in driving our business. The process described as crowdsourcing, as I said, it's a hot topic, is described recently. The first who used this expression was Jeff Howe, let's say famous journalist who edited one Wired article in 2006. Later he made a book, Crowdsourcing, Why the Power of the Crowd is Driving the Future of Business. And it was published in 2008, so quite recently, and became one of the bestsellers. So the point is how now the crowd is really driving the future of our business, and in the same time we are combining it with the power of the young generation, because we shall see that the crowd is not some undefined crowd, but it's also articulated via social networks, social groups, internet society and collaborative society, which can really interfere in our production process or creating our exhibitions or entertainment or whatever. I'll give you one example. A few days ago we got the Eurovision winner for 2012. It was a Swedish singer, Loreen. The second were Babushka's group from Russia with the party, and the third was Željko Joksimović from my town. Now I'll come to the point. If we have if we want to make a short festival in the city of Tomsk, and we have the dates, for instance, Monday Loreen is singing, Tuesday Željko is singing, and we combine with two Russian participants like Borachovskaya Babushki and your famous singer Dima. You are those who can decide whom do you want to combine with Loreen or with Željko. Would the Babushki play with Željko on Tuesday or Dima with Loreen on Monday? So we give the power to the crowd, to the citizens of Tomsk, to decide about the program. In fact, the crowd is deciding and designing the program. So we are not just hearing the opinion of the crowd or the potential participants or visitors, but we are giving them the power to make the program, and that is used in the event management and in the business which we call MICE and so on, special events. There are also very many other examples how we see the power of the crowd used in the everyday performance of the companies. Now we shall talk about it. We shall see what are also the preconditions for a successful crowdsourcing, and finally what are the benefits of using this special process. Now we shall focus more on the similarities of crowdsourcing with other mechanisms and processes and techniques which are used in management and PR. Speaking about crowdsourcing is always reminding people about outsourcing. When in the beginning of the 80s and 90s, it became very popular to send jobs to India or to, let's say, to China for searching for cheaper labor or outsourcing some activities. It was always outsourcing some of the activities to the professionals or professional groups or to some companies or groups who have very defined and very advanced skills. So each of the companies, even small companies, are outsourcing some of the services like accounting, call centers, information, PR activities, or advertising. But crowdsourcing is quite the opposite trend. So instead of moving the activities out of our company to the province of specialized groups and professional groups, crowdsourcing tries to involve the society and the groups into our activity. This is also linked with the ever-changing and developing new media outlets and knowledge economy and informatics. Why are we speaking that the young generation should be playing the distinctive role in developing crowdsourcing? Because most of all, the young generation are, from one side, a big user of new media and also tending to group in social networks. And from the other side, the new generation are really consumers of cultural services, consumer goods and other products. They are spending either their own money or the money of their parents, but as consumers they are becoming very, very important in all the societies. So crowdsourcing is a kind of giving not only young people but all the people the power of changing our production process or making decision about what we want to do. That's why there are similarities with outsourcing, but in the way, to my mind, is quite opposite. So instead of giving to people who are professional and who are organized in companies, agencies, specialized groups, we speak about giving the power to the crowd. The second expression which can remind you somehow to outsourcing, to crowdsourcing, is prosuming. Prosuming is an expression or term coined from two. One is producing plus consuming, and our producer plus consumer, and the second is professional plus consumer. The expression was coined in the 80s by the famous futurologist Alvin Toffler, and usually it was considered as managing the link between those who are consuming something with professional skills and adapting the products and practically producing new products. Philip Kotler, a guru of marketing, is considering prosuming as one of the let's say philosophies or marketing approaches which can be part of the strategy of the company which is going, let's say, to sell the packages of a fertile land plus spices, that you could produce your own spices on the balconies of your homes in Tomsk or in Casino, in Sofia, Belgrade, or wherever. So we are consumers, but in the same time we are producers, or as Toffler or Kotler are saying, we are producing consumers, what's in fact prosumers. What is the difference between prosuming and crowdsourcing? It is that all the decisions are taken by the companies and the organizations, and the crowd has only to develop, let's say, a kind of the adding value to the components that they are buying, like do it yourself, producing your own food and so on. So, or let's say make some software, which will be a combination of the softwares and hardware you buy. So these are the, let's call the main areas of performing prosuming. Finally, we can mention also that most of the people now still do not understand the essence of crowdsourcing, that it's also not a market research, it's not just making a poll. So we are not interested in what people do think, what's also important, and how to produce something what would be relevant for the needs of the people and what would fit perfectly the needs, but it's also the people by themselves being a production power, a productive power, and giving them the right to make the service that they want to enjoy or to consume. And also there are some other reminiscence. People sometimes mention, when I ask them what are the examples, they say it's tailor-made customization. Again, it's not. It is, you know, producing something toward the need of one person or a small group, but it is out of the essence of crowdsourcing. Now we shall also give some successful examples of crowdsourcing, and one of them was the campaign launched by Colgate in England. The English brand Colgate launched in 2011 a campaign, smiling photos. That was a campaign when they called their fans to send 1 million photos via internet to the Facebook, and to choose the photos which would be the let's say put on the billboards around Great Britain. So the crowd is now in fact making a part of the job of the let's say media company or advertising company. So the company is making a noise, is asking people, is insisting on a healthy smile, healthy tooth, and also in the same time raising the awareness and the loyalty to the brand. The task was very ambitious, 1 million photos, but also it was pushed by the social responsibility campaign, because Colgate decided to give 1,000 pounds to a charity named Bernardo's, and only if they reach 1 million photos. So such a huge campaign could be only a part of a crowdsourcing process, and it is achieving many objectives. There are various examples how the crowdsourcing is managed and how it means in fact the tapping into the global talent pool of the young generation. The young generation has a lot of talents and is eager to express their ideas, to communicate, and what's also very important is that they are very well organized in social groups. Many ideas are from the world of even restaurants, cafeterias, giving good menus, choosing the right cocktails which could be served, and from many other branches. I wanted to also show you one example from publishing. Our colleague, professor of history in America, Jason Vujic, has published a book named Yugo, the worst car in history, or the rise and fall of the worst car in history. For those who might not know, Yugo was a small car manufactured in ex-Yugoslavia and was the first car which was exported to America. Jason Vujic took the car as a symbol, I should say, about not only Yugoslavia and its success, but also of the limits of the socialist production, which could always produce a lot, a number, and the quantities, but not the qualities. So it was the fall of Yugo together with the fall of Yugoslavia, but the book became a bestseller in America. I contacted Jason, and in one of the mails he asked me, Sinisa, could you organize or inform your students and your friends and ask them to send me their real stories about some events that happened driving Yugo cars. So some were funny, some were very bad, and so on. What were the real stories about Yugo? Because I would like, in the second edition, to add these stories into the publication and to have that, you know, completed with the testimonials of the people. And it gave me the idea. I was thinking, what's Jason doing? He is, in fact, crowdsourcing, because now we are becoming the co-authors of his text. And concluding with all these successful and interesting examples how you can use the crowd, I wanted to ask you all to send me your ideas about crowdsourcing, and if you know for some good examples of crowdsourcing in your countries, in Russia, in Italy, in America, and from where we are the participants of the conference, please do not hesitate to send me, and I would also like to be a part of the process of crowdsourcing. There are very many now examples that the crowd is playing a significant role in our production of goods or services. For instance, in cultural institutions. If the Museum of Oppression in the past KGB building in Tomsk would like to create an exhibition, it would be also interesting, the exhibition, to be somehow, let's say, derived from the wishes and to be the result of the activity of the crowd. There are a lot of objectives that could be reached when you use crowdsourcing as a process. One of the main objectives that or results of the process is establishing a two-way communication, and that's why the crowdsourcing is many times used as or understood as a part of the public relations, or keeping the contact with the audience, or establishing two-way communication. But it's really not only that, and it's not a new mantra of PR, it's more a productive source. The second benefit is that you can use the unlimited power of the talent of the people. They could be your consumers, your clients, your visitors. So the talent does not live only in this room or at your university or in some groups. The talent is all around us. So this is one unlimited source that could be used in producing our values. And this is also there is also another one objective which could be reached. It is to produce something what really fits our needs. So we like this kind of a program, mixing Lorraine with Dima or Lorraine with Buranovsky babushki. This is what do we think. We like this combination, and the other part of the potential visitors would prefer the other combination. So what is fitting our needs? Finally, why not saying that this could be a new pool of cheap labor? Even the crowd can do corporate research and development. You know, many times I say to the companies exhibiting at the trade shows, each visitor is very important. Sometimes some retired scientist or university professor who came just for a hobby to see your products. Listen carefully to his remarks. So the crowd could be a source for the R&D department of your business or your institution. There is no magic wand how to make the best use of the crowdsourcing. Sometimes you can be very successful, sometimes not. But there are principles. There are some principles or preconditions that you have to pass in order to introduce crowdsourcing in your philosophy of the company, of the museum, of the institution, or of the event agency or event organizing agency. So considering carefully the experiences that we could research in this, let's say, last 3 years, there were a lot of examples. We came to some conclusions. One of the conclusion is that first of all, you have to create the landscape of the virtual societies and virtual networks. What does it mean? So one point is speaking about the crowd. The another one is who is representing the crowd. Which part of the crowd is relative for your business? Not all of us, maybe for consuming Colgate, it could be all of us, but still maybe young people who have shiny white teeth. So even in that example, when the product is of large consume, it is important to define who is the crowd, what is the crowd, and how to articulate the crowd. So the first precondition is designing the landscape of the crowd. Designing the landscape of the crowd is supporting social groups and social networks. For instance, if we take into consideration one museum, like a museum of oppression, the crowd should be the relatives and the families of those who were imprisoned in the campus, the citizens of Tomsk, let's say the servants or the professionals of the services, secret services, and the others who were managing all that, and so on and so on. So there are particular groups who could be organized in the virtual society and give us the answer. Like, for instance, webcams of our squares. If I go to the internet and see the webcams a live webcam from Tomsk. I see some squares, but the drivers who are driving every morning to their jobs should say what crossroads have to be broadcasted to have an instant information should they pass through that area or avoid the crossroad. The second one is giving a choice. So even crowdsourcing is not doing something out of nothing. So before expecting something, you should have to invest some time or some money in organizing the let's say the information about the idea, give more information to the crowd and so on. The Public Relations Society of America has adopted a new definition of PR. They wanted to replace the old one. They made a call to their members, and finally they put 3 proposals to be voted, and then they gave the power to their members of the PR Society of America to vote for the new definition. In the same time, the American Marketing Association adopted the definition by the board of the society, of the association. So this is a little bit different. Finally, not finally, but one of the preconditions, the third one, is considering the crowdsources as a kind of our intrapreneurial activities. So speaking about the crowd of our internal factor. So we all have the right to be entrepreneurial. The fourth precondition for the success of the whole process is that the process has to be visible, sound, and accepted, not only by the people, but also very well accepted by all the managers of your museum, your concert agency, or your company which is manufacturing some products. Finally, I come to the end, because I think for a good success, all these 4 preconditions are very important, but above all, I think that there is the 5th one, is to have trust. Trust, trust, and trust. If we trust to our audience, if we trust to our consumers, if we trust to our groups, then we have to realize the process in the best way.